every month around the full moon, we pull a card from the Fairy Tale Tarot deck. This is a deck by Lisa Hunt. This was a deck I inherited from my mom that I just think is really fun. So we pull a card, we read the story, and then we interpret what it means for all of us for the full moon. So this is a collective reading. So I already pulled the card. I'm going to read the story. I'll keep an eye on the chat rooms when I'm done. If you guys want to share your interpretation or share anything you want to about the story, please do. This is one of my favorite parts. We will collab together here, right? All righty. So the card that I pulled actually is the Ten of Swords. So if you're in the live stream and you can see it, or if you're not, it is a guy in a flying chest or trunk of some sort. It's pretty ornate. There is some mountains in the background. There is a castle in the background. There's a lot of like swirly clouds and things in the air. That's what it looks like. So the Ten of Swords. So the story itself is Danish. It is called The Flying Trunk. The keywords are setbacks, financial troubles, and ruin. Well, I'm not liking this already. Okay. We'll figure it out. Once upon a time, there was a merchant who was a prudent investor. He saved his earnings and died a wealthy man. But his son, having inherited his money, spent it foolishly. It wasn't long before his son was reduced to 4 pennies, worn slippers, and a robe. He quickly fell out of favor with his friends and was given a trunk with a note that said, "Pack up and go." Wow, sound like some great friends, eh? But the merchant's son had nothing to pack. Instead, he sat inside the trunk and pushed the lock. Up the trunk flew through the clouds and into distant lands. He, as all trunks would do, if you climb inside of them. He landed his trunk in a forest next to a Turkish city and hid the trunk under some leaves. He walked the streets and asked an old peasant woman about the glorious palace in the distance. "That is where the Sultan's daughter lives," she said. "She cannot see anyone, for it has been prophesied that she would endure great suffering if she fell in love." Of course. Don't we have to suffer? Isn't that one of the messages of society, right? The merchant's son returned to the forest and climbed into the trunk. He flew up to the upper reaches of the palace and came to the window of the princess's suite. Sure, because if you know that falling in love would create great sadness and suffering for someone, you would definitely want to go fall in love with them post haste. He looked inside and saw the princess. This is not creepy at all. Lying on her royal bed. She was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, and he couldn't help but kiss her. Good God. Are every one of these like this? These fairy tales? Some princess in duress with some man that breaks into her bedroom and sexually assaults her? All right. Maybe that's going too far. We'll see. The kiss startled her awake, and she didn't beat the shit out of him. But the merchant was so smooth and poetic with his words that he put her at ease. Maybe a good kisser? She relaxed in the hands of the storyteller, who spun fantastic tales like none she had ever heard. I am a great prophet who has been riding the skies in search of the perfect wife. When the charlatan finished, he asked the princess to be his wife. The so-called prophet and his ability to deliver spellbinding prose charmed the princess. Without pause, she agreed. Again, he knows that marrying her is going to cause great suffering for her. I guess that doesn't matter. Okay. Come back on Sunday to meet my parents. The princess said, "Be sure to prepare your best stories for the meeting." She gave the merchant's son a saber covered in gold coins and sent him off with a kiss. He removed one of the gold coins and bought a new robe to impress the princess's parents. On Saturday, he returned to the palace and began to charm the royal couple with his dazzling and comical tales about inanimate objects. He was such an entertaining communicator that the story won over the king and queen, and a wedding date was set. Because they don't care about their daughter suffering either, I guess. On the day of the wedding, the merchant's son flew into town with his trunk. From above, he could see the fanfare surrounding the upcoming marriage. The whole town was ablaze with cheer. The merchant's son wanted to make a good impression on the public, so he took another coin from his saber, bought fireworks, and filled up the trunk with them. He flew above the gathering ground and gave them a spectacular light show. The people were in awe at the pageantry and deduced that he must indeed be a prophet. He flew back to the forest and haphazardly covered the trunk with dry brush before returning to town. He wanted to clear all the praise that was sure to follow. Oh, he wanted to hear all of the praise that was sure to follow his fireworks spectacle. And indeed, people spoke endlessly about the amazing tricks of the prophet. Chad Daybell, anyone? But while he lingered in the presence of his adoring public, residual sparks had flown into the forest and set his trunk on fire. When he returned, his trunk had been reduced to a pile of ashes. Without the trunk, the merchant's son could not fly to the roof of the palace to meet his bride, so he left and never turned back. He took his stories to other places and made a living being a professional storyteller. Meanwhile, the princess waited all day for her betrothed. As prophesied, she endured great heartache when her husband-to-be never showed and instead left her standing alone on the roof. The hell? Okay. Symbols and meaning. Here's some symbols from the author. She says the flying trunk represents uncertainty. The trunk is adorned with swords that enhance the illusion of movement. The clouds are blowing past swiftly, suggesting the temporal nature of the magical vehicle. The lad does not hold on to the trunk, suggesting an inability to be responsible. The island below is an oasis of towers surrounded by fog, representing the wisdom lying untouched in the psyche. The body of water is the unconscious. Okay. She says the transience of the trunk is a metaphor for the unpredictable nature of life events. Be prepared for ups and downs and take actions to help modify the effects of an unstable situation. Look back at past mistakes and try not to repeat them as you face possible setbacks. Okay. So it's a collective reading for the next 2 weeks, right? So let me tell you what I got from that and where I'm going, and then I would love to hear your opinions as well. I feel like the next 2 weeks, energetically and financially, will be some pretty good ups and downs. Be prepared for some unexpected expenses. This is a time where I think we could see things like, the water pump go out of your car, or some crazy thing like that, the fridge die, or, unexpected expenses. So we're not going to manifest them. We're sure not going to hope for them, but we're going to be prepared with an action plan if something were to go awry. So that's number one. The second part of this is from an energetic place. I feel like we're going to have some big surges in energy and some setbacks. I feel like we're going to have some time where we feel like we're really surging forward. We feel really energetic. We feel really creative. And some other times where we feel like we just can't get out of bed. Honor that. If you have those days where you feel like you just cannot function, the collective energy is giving you that. Give yourself plenty of chances to rest the next couple of weeks. Give yourself plenty of chances to do things that you do enjoy, and don't push too hard. You can mow the lawn later. You can do the laundry later, but you can't necessarily rest and give yourself some nurturing later. This is not a time to overdo it or push yourself too hard. The other part of that is that you are going to see other people in a lot of chaos the next couple of weeks. Resist the urge to get too involved. Focus on yourself, eyes on your own paper as much as possible. You may have to serve as support to some of those closest to you, and that's okay. Support without giving up too much. Do not give money you don't have. Do not give time that you don't have. Be loving, be supportive, be kind, but don't sell the farm for somebody else right now. You really can't. And sometimes, you guys, you're bad for learning other people's lessons for them instead of letting them learn them and figure their own stuff out while you just support them. So be sure that you are not falling into that this next couple of weeks. So that's where it's at for me. So excellent self care, being wise with your money, being prepared for something to, potentially need a little more of your money or time than you expected. We're going to expect some of the unexpected, right? And it's going to be okay. So that is my interpretation of the full moon card for this month.